I actually wanted to speak about something different, but that was probably a bit too salty. Like the bro, right? The ever okay, a topic I think we often speak about a lot as Black British people or as ethnic minorities. A lot of people understand what people mean when they speak of quote unquote microaggressions. Okay. In fact, let's just jump straight into it. Salute to everyone in the building. If the sound is good and if you're in the house, please press a 1 if the sound is good. Okay, I'm going to come back to the chat in a sec. I just want to be streamlined at the beginning. Let's see where we are. I just want to pull up what microaggressions are. Okay, in fact, it's not letting me pull up, but we don't need to pull up. I'm just going to read a short article, short paragraph of what it is. Okay, this article, which comes from Toronto Met, okay, a Canadian article, and it's titled Unpacking Microaggression, Combating Anti-Black Biases, okay? So it goes on to say, Black people experience the harmful impacts of verbal or non-verbal microaggression almost daily. Ryerson experts describe such instances of racism as slights, comments, or actions stemming from power dynamics in play during daily interactions that can make a person feel inferior in some way. Quote, it happens pretty much anywhere there are people who belong to a dominant culture, a dominant gender, or sexual identity, who then wield that power consciously or unconsciously over others, said someone called Cheryl Thompson, a professor at Ryerson School, okay? Quote, people don't want to talk about power. It's often the elephant in the room. But what I mean by power is not your title. Power is your sense of belonging to the place where you are. So if you are white and male, your sense of belonging is just different than if you are, for example, Black and female, Thompson said. So verbal and non-verbal microaggressions. I'm not going to read too long. I don't really want to get into it. But microaggressions are similar to other forms of racism in that they often take the shape of backhanded compliments, resulting from grouping together of a community of or universalizing experiences. Okay, making experiences seem the same, but they can be unique in the sense that they involve one-on-one interactions, often with people we know. Okay. So microaggressions, we understand what it is, or we think we understand what it is, right? But a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people claim that, you know, when they walk through the streets, for example, people, you know, the so-called dominant society might want to cross the road, right, in avoidance of them. Or people state when they are queuing up to get some money out of an ATM, you know, the people in front of them are fondling and tightening the grip of their purses, etc. Right? So this is the subject of today's live. And I really want to see what you feel about it. But salute to everyone in the chat. Salute. I see No Limit 7 in the building. Salute. The first one in the building. Good to see you. TM in the building. Good to see you. Says looking forward to this one. Salute. Appreciate the ones. Big L also in the building. Salute to you. Okay, some familiar faces in Discord. And you know what? I think I need to reintroduce myself, okay? I need to reintroduce myself as a content creator, right? Some new people might come and they might see titles like Black British this, Black British that. So I need to reintroduce myself, okay? And there's a reason for saying this. I am a British man, okay? Yes, that's correct. I'm a British man, i.e. my citizenship, born and raised here, okay? And I am of Nigerian descent, i.e. my ethnicity, right? My content titles may seem like one of victimization or of a race-baited nature, but I assure you it's not. You know, I speak on a lot of these issues because no one else really speaks on Black British instances, right? Situations, uh, news articles. No one really majorly discusses these things, right? And these, often these are the realities that a lot of black people face in the UK, right? But I say that to say I am a black belt martial artist. I've competed internationally in grueling a grueling full contact sport of taekwondo, as a heavyweight, right? And so for that, I am someone that champions an indomitable spirit. That is to attain a strong mind that can't be crushed. As cheesy as that sounds, you know, a mind that won't wallow in despair when dark times come. A mind that won't be able to overcome trials and tribulations in life, because that is life, right? There's always going to be something happening that we need to overcome. And this is why when it comes to certain mentalities, man, I'm very, very irate. I get irate when I see some self-defeatist mentalities, right? And I say that because I know that sometimes, and this is just my opinion, we can go through it. You can call in if you want. Call in link is in a chat pinned, right? This is not really a planned stream. I don't have articles to show you and all of that. This is more of a touch base type of stream, okay? But sometimes we could use microaggressions as a crutch or as something that aligns with our own mental state. For example, okay, let me use the verse example. You walk down the street and a white British person crosses the road, right? Why is it always going to be automatically the idea that that person crossed the road just because you're black? It could be because you're black, but then it could be because, I don't know, the person just wanted to cross the road, or, there's so many other reasons for that, right? And so, again, when it goes back to the people, like in the Discord, the mentalities that are seem just so low and depressive, yeah, it really irritates me, to be honest with you. I say that as someone who's I've been laid off of jobs, of long relationships that have ended. I've come from an area that is infested with crime and criminals. I've had parents die, right? And that's without having a strong, loving family network in places. I failed in many things, but all of these things just made my resolve in life much stronger. And yes, I have been victim of racial abuse or microaggressions. And that's what we're going to discuss. Okay. So once again, salute to everyone in the building. Link is pinned to the top. If you want to discuss your thoughts, feel free to jump on. But I'm just going to discuss a few of these things. Right? I don't see this live being a long one. I've had a long ass day, and yeah, to be honest with you, yeah, everyone in the building. I just want to list some microaggressions I think a lot of Black British people. I guess I want to hear what you guys in the chat think. Like you think is a mindset and try to find, just not even a quote unquote solution, what it is about. Okay. So the first one I want to talk about is, again, people crossing the street as, we approach them, right? Again, it could be a microaggression, but it also could be because the person just had to cross the street, right? I know some people might be annoyed and frustrated with that, but for me, I'd rather someone not jump to that conclusion straight away that, oh, I'm black, it's because I'm black. Because what happens is that makes us paranoid people, right? Constantly looking out now for all of these microaggressions, constantly thinking that, oh, all white British people are quote unquote like that, you know? And I think beyond that, that that psychology just leads to a real inferiority, real feeling like, oh my God, I am a victim of abuses every day and I can't escape it. What can I do? That's the true inferiority complex that will arise from that, where you're always feeling like that, you know. But what do you guys think? Like, is crossing the road a clear sign of a microaggression in your opinion, or is there a manner in which it's done that will make it a microaggression? You know, does someone like look at you, tut, and look at you in a certain way and then cross the road, or is it more like a slick, just oh, no, no, I don't want anything. No, I'm just crossing the road. Because to be honest with you, man, to be honest, man, if I mean it's not usually going to happen, but if I'm walking down the street and what is before me down the street looks like there might be even potential of trouble, and I want my day to go smoothly. I don't want any trouble with the day. I've had a good day. My ego's not too high where I won't just, cross the road if I need to. Yeah, not today. These hoodlums, no, not today. I'm not walking through. No, not today. You know. So is sometimes that might just be a logical procedure. Unfortunately, you know. So what I would say about this mentality as well is that something that I truly believe and something that I think a few people won't agree with is that when you start to alienate yourself from rationally dealing with the dominant society, I think that causes a massive issue because inevitably these are people that you're going to have to interact with, speaking as an ethnic minority. So when that alienation creeps in and around certain people you just don't feel yourself, and then you're putting on a facade, you're code switching, and you just can't be yourself. And again, for me, that reeks of an inferiority complex where you have to pretend, and you have to, in some cases you might want to be a people pleaser. You're trying to be the jokester and the jester all the time, pleasing people. And that's a very kind of submissive position, in my opinion. You know, salute to KB Jones in the building, man. Salute to KB Jones. I hope you go check out his channel, man. Almost at 1K as well. So check out KB Jones in the building. Salute to Santiago Diaz. Salute to Ephraim Mackworth in the building. Salute, salute. KB Jones says, to be honest, when these things happen, like crossing the road or grabbing their bag, for example, I just laugh in their face nowadays, especially if it's another brown man. I think that's pathetic. You're scared if it's another grown man. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of cowards out there that I can attest to, but unfortunately, it kind of goes with the unfortunate stereotype that we have in the country, right? With all the so-called black on black crime going on, it seems like people just won't take the chance anymore in some cases. If they think or assume someone is has the potential to be aggressive, dangerous, some people won't risk it. And that's unfortunate because again, that's a ramification of or that's an example of how these problems trickle down and affect normal people, normal law-abiding citizens, right? So crossing the street, I guess, a microaggression. Another one I can think of is oh, you are so articulate. I.e., you don't speak, you don't like the average black person. Press the one if you get that. Oh, you're so articulate. Now, I don't really prize myself in my articulation, but I think I speak with a clean English. Like I'm very aware when I use certain slang. Um, like I think I've been told that my use of English is clean. I don't need slang, right? So I've gotten that in the past quite a bit. I think Big L has received that as well. When you're not going to say bruv after every sentence, you're not going to say fam. Um, yeah, yeah, I mean, to be honest, some of the lingo, man, I keep as well, but I keep by purpose because I see it as like um, it's a part of my heritage, right? I mean, my South London lingo, I see it as part of my heritage. So I don't try to sound different, but I do speak. I rarely use slang like that. Santiago Diaz says, and like the funny thing is that the dangerous people, quote unquote, sport the same fashion. So I just don't really understand it. I hear that. KB Jones says, one, yeah, you speak so well. Actually, KB Jones, you do speak well. I just realized you do speak very eloquently. But yeah, I mean, is that a microaggression? I guess it's the way it's worded, right? You speak so well. Shout out to Kumina Kid in the building. Says, shout out to my UK massive from Baltimore. One link. Hey, salute to that. We got some from Baltimore, USA. Salute. So we got that. Oh, you're so articulate. What else do we have? We got the classic one actually. Where are you really from? We did a stream about that with that member of the royal family who went up to the CEO of the charity Sister. What is it called? Sister Space. And she asked her, where are you really from? Basically trying to understand her ethnic origins, right? And funny thing is, this was a person who was dressed in quote unquote ethnic attire, but she was very coy in answering that and found it very offensive. But is that a microaggression? Where are you really from? Perhaps it could be worded better, but I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure. Is that a microaggression? Where are you really from? If you went to Ghana, shout out to KP. If you went to Ghana and you came across someone that looks like they are of Chinese origin, would it be a microaggression to go to him or her and say, where are you really from, sir? I just say this stuff. I just say this stuff because, again, in my opinion, it's better to not just you know, jump off the handle and get all emotional about certain things. And typically these are things we we always like customarily just assume it's a microaggression or it's a slick diss. It's subtle racial abuse. Big hmm. Ephraim Mackworth says to be either both depend in my you know you know. But generally speaking, to be honest, I think that again, some of you guys, oh, you're a Londoner. Yeah, London, the capital. I think that people in London have the social intelligence, generally speaking, to not say things in a certain way. That's what I see. If they're in the current generation, I don't know, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. I don't hear people saying that, to be honest with you. Where are you really from? TM thing is when other people approach and talk you in the black scent. That's a good one actually. That's a good one, right? I think someone mentioned this before in the Discord, or like when you're, I don't know, in a business arrangement and the handshakes were handed out to other people, non-black people, but then for some reason you get the fist pump, right? Or you get the bro at the end, like, yeah, bro. But again, look, I'm trying to be fair and balanced. Channel 4 News tonight, man. Is that a microaggression though? Maybe what I described is not exactly what TM means, but is that a microaggression to call you bro? Or is that someone trying to lean into you in terms of trying to relate with you? I know a lot of people talk about pet peeves in that, um, some non-black people do things with quote unquote black mannerisms, and again, black mannerisms, what are those? You know, they do these things towards black people, but they don't do it towards other people. But is that good or bad? Food for thought, man. KB Jones in the building. He says, "Where are you from?" "Quote unquote." In the UK is an interesting question. Overall, I think native English people would prefer us to identify with our countries of origin. It's an interesting one. Yeah, very interesting. Um, that's a mixed one, to be honest, because I kind of feel like, and it's a feeling, but it's a funny situation. Like the dominant society, quote unquote, often complain that the immigrants or the ethnic minorities are not trying their best to be British, right? They're not lining up at the Queen's funeral at Buckingham Palace, and they're not doing all these traditionally British things, right? So it's almost as if, I don't know, it's like between a rock and a hard place. Like you're not seen as fully British, but yet we kind of want you to do the British things. This is, yeah, this is a heart to heart stream, man. This is like, what is all this? Salute to everyone in the building, though, man. You don't have to like the video, okay, and you don't have to super chat. But if you super chat, this is what you'll get. Super chat. Yeah, I'm very proud of that. Let's see. Ephraim Ackworth says it's bad. I hear that. Ephraim also says it's mostly from baby boomers and Gen Xers. Where you really from? Yeah, these old heads gotta go, man. Shit, I'm becoming an old head soon as well. I'm gonna be Uncle Falcon soon, man. CBC Boxing says sometimes I think they do that to make us more comfortable. How do you mean, or do you mean uncomfortable? No Limit says, well, I had someone ask me the same question, where are you really from? So I told them, but I asked her the same question and she did not answer me and just walked off. It's funny, man. It's funny. Look, it's funny. Britain is funny because when you look at the history of Britain, and look, the native British people, man, take this with take it like a champ. The Britain was always full of immigrants, full of many different tribes, right? It was pretty diverse. Without using the modern idea of race, in those days, it was pretty diverse. right? Romans came over, did the typical things, enslaving and murdering, right? When London was Londinium, the Vikings, the Germanic, all these people came and went, So this idea of yeah, let me not get in there, man. Let me not get in there. Let me see what else everyone's saying. To be honest, TM says, where are you from doesn't surprise me. Keep in mind, Asians are called British Asian and we are called Black British. Our race is before anything. I disagree with that. I think that Black, um, I think, yeah, they use the N word, the Latin N word to describe African people. That could have been a good example of just simply seeing people as a, calling people of color. But I think Black is something that has been championed, you know, firstly from Black Americans, and I think other Black people just adopted it worldwide. So I kind of think that that's us. I think that in this day and age, if us, quote unquote, wanted a name change, I think that application would be well met. But I can't see an alternative with the way it is. Like, we're all split people, like different groups of people. I think most people probably prefer being called Black, to be honest with you. And the fact is that all these modern African countries, they're they're new countries, most of them created artificially. I'm rambling, man. I'm just speaking my mind tonight, man. Captain Tolson says they talk about integration, but they don't truly want that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ephraim says the question is, what makes you British as a Black man in the UK? That's a good question. A question to the chat. What makes you British as a Black man in the UK? So what microaggressions were there? We came up with, oh, you're so articulate, the crossing the street. Where are you really from? But here's another one. Man. What's your name again? I don't know if has caught onto that. What's your name again? Or how do you pronounce your name? Completely making a mockery out of your name, typically the African name. What's your name again? Sorry, I didn't catch that. What's your name again, mate? you know? Did you say Barbara? No. My name, Babatunde Adebisi. Oh, okay. Can you shorten it, mate, please? That could be another microaggression. But again, it's one of those ones where it's like, is it a microaggression? Or people, I know some people will be slick and playing around, but then again, some of us have crazy names, that unfortunately, again, this might go into the whole family planning, future planning. But if you're going to give someone a name that is very, like, very distinctly a foreign name, and you're going to give birth to them in a country that's not the norm, yeah, you're going to stand out. And these instances will happen. This is another thing when it comes to the whole thinking before you lay your eggs, so to speak. Yeah, please do like the stream if you're enjoying it. Let's see for more microaggressions. What microaggressions do Black British people experience? Let's see. TM says being good at sports for England is. Are you answering Ephraim's question? What makes you what makes you British as a black man? So being a good sprinter, being good at sports. Damn. Captain Tosin says, love of football, our accent, can't think of much else. I hear that. Yeah, the accent is rare. Whoa. Randomly, my TV just came on. I'm having one of those days, man, where look, maybe you can tell him in the loop, but I've been keep with my rotor, right? The live stream, keep it going, even if it's more relaxed like today. Some of you guys in the Discord, man, man, makes me question what the hell am I doing? But that's another topic for discussion, man. Big L says, then they will call you Baba instead of Baba Tunde. But hey, again, is that a microaggression though? Oh, they're shortening your name. Okay, that might be a little bit offensive, but that is part of the name, isn't it? You know, CBC box. Some of them won't even say your name; they will call you mate instead. The jaw, but I mean, you know, again, man, it's the awareness, right? You're calling your child, you're giving your child like 8 names, and they're all over like 10 characters. In a country that a traditionally Christian country with Christian names, that doesn't make sense to me, man. So yeah, these problems will occur. Ephraim says, queuing, talking about the bad weather, football, going to the pub, eating British food. Do you guys actually go to the pub? Nah, I don't think you guys go to the pub like that, man. Uh-oh, there's another one, another traditional microaggression. I'm not racist. I have several black friends. Oh, also another one. I don't see color. I treat everybody the same. I don't see color. I treat everybody the same. My husband's black. Yeah, that's a funny one, man. There's a content creator guy, an old guy on these YouTube street. If you've noticed, he talks about wild things, but he got a picture of him holding up little black kids whilst talking a basically spouting racist commentary. Those are the vibes I get, man. I'm not racist. I have black friends. I grew up with black people. But again, I say all this to say, you might have just joined midstream. I say all that to say, same time, yeah, and I know people won't like to hear this. I'm not one that likes to sit in. Example of if you're walking down the street and some other people decide to cross the road, why automatically is that sign that because you are black? I don't think that is a correct way of dealing with the situation. That leads to having an inferior. I think it leads to stability where you are unable to normally engage with these other people that you feel are causing you these abuses every day. And again, I'm never ever will say, oh, microaggressions are not subtle racial thing. Racism is not a thing. I'll never say that. But unfortunately, we can't control these things. No, you can't control. We shouldn't be in trying to make so-called to be non-racist. You can't control these things. Let people think and feel as that right. The thing that we control is how we respond to these things. And for me, the better way to deal with things is the way in which will lead to positive mental health. You know, this is the 1st of December now, but last month was the big focus on men's mental health. Microaggressions, I'm sure, affects black men. Uh, Definitely affects, right? But damn, I'm all over the place. What I call for is rationality, man. To be reasonable, to think about the stuff. You know what I mean? Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Uh, Ephraim says being curious of ethnic food you eat. That's a that's a that's a curious one. Oh, Big L says, or you're mistaken for a security guard or cleaner. You know, like, do you work here, mate? I'm not even asking if you work here, just automatically asking, you know, I don't know, an aisle 7 question. And Frame says, but sometimes it's best to have an English name so that you won't be a bother. Yeah, I can understand that, man. All these other groups of people, well, I say all these other groups, not all groups, but there's a few key groups of people that change their name. And that is for the purpose of being more suitable in this environment. Conformation. Oh, that's another word that triggers a lot of black people in the UK to conform. You know, KB Jones says it's funny because as more British Africans become known in popular media, all of a sudden African names are not so hard to pronounce, like Kwame Kweyama, who was in Holly City. Yeah, that's true though. That's true. CBC Boxing says asking you where the Victoria line is because they think you work for TFL. Oh, you're the guy at the ticket, right? Just standing there. Can I see your ticket, mate? That's a curious one. Working in a workplace with another black person and being told you should date them. I can see that. It's like, yeah, you two match, even though you don't have any personality traits that match up. You know, you're completely different people, but because your skin tone matches, yeah, you're a good match. I can see that one. Um, what else is there? What other microaggressions do Black British people experience in the UK? Another one I can think of. Why are you so loud? Calm down. You know, why are you so boisterous? Calm down. Why can't you be like Jane and Charlie in the back? Calm down. Relax. Why are you so hyper? Why are you drumming a beat on the desk? Calm down. Uh-oh. You know. So yeah, with this room, I didn't really want to do too much, man. It's more to see how you feel about Man, these gestures on the touchpad, man. I just do a gesture and it takes me back out of the studio, man. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I'm being rookie tonight, man. I'm being rookie. Let's see what you're saying in the chat. But I guess the key point, man, with bringing up microaggressions, is how do we deal with them? How do we deal with microaggressions? I'm a, I don't want to say I'm a guy that's all about solutions, but the way when I have problems, when I encounter a problem in my head simultaneously, I'm thinking about, or I'm thinking of different pathways, right? Different ways to respond, different um, solutions, different outcomes, right? And I think this makes things so easy and so simple in terms of dealing with problems. I like to solve problems, right? And this is why I guess it seems I don't really take these so-called microaggressions that deep, you know? Maybe I'm just a little bit detached, perhaps, but it's just maybe it's my age. Maybe I'm just older. I'm just like, I don't have that insecurity. I don't care. You can say what you want. But I really think that as a group of people in this country, we really need to, have somewhat of a rational approach to these situations as well. It can't just be that, oh, you see how they act around me, they cross the road, they're afraid of me. Most of these things that we listed, they're kind of like comedic, right? They're very it's like something to laugh at. Like that's just an ignorant person. That's just a stupid person. That's just an uncultured person. You don't try to pronounce a name. You're just uncultured. You don't know anything other than what you have or what you are. Like CBC Boxing says. I tend to agree. But saying that, I don't like to overlay the way I deal with things on other people. I know other people have different ways of dealing with certain things, right? And I guess these are issues that are very, very personal. So, that's why I make these streams. So people, if they want to come up, I believe I put the link in the chat if you do want to have your say about these things. That's why I make the stream so people can air their views, and I will just usually just show up and listen. But at the same time, I do believe that it's very important to create a spirit that won't be destroyed, that won't be taken down by things like this, microaggressions. If someone screw faces you, it's not always, and they're not black. If a white person screws at you, it's not always gonna be because you're black. That's just a fact. Can we not agree that that's a fact? It's not always gonna be just simply because you're black. But it just seems like the automatic response to that incident is, oh, it's because I'm black. See, this is how they treat us in this country. I don't feel like I belong. And this really does a number on your mentality. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I just focus on the people that count. The strangers on the street don't count. You know, but let me come back to the chat, man. Let me see what you're saying because you guys are jokes tonight, man. Let's see what you're saying. CBC Boxing says, call your child Harry or Emma just to make their lives easier. Yeah, that's funny, man. That's funny. Hey, my name is a proud Nigerian name, and I've never wanted to change it. I'm never gonna change it. I've never thought about changing it. I think it's meaningful, right? Wherever you go, your name, these identifiers go with you all across the world. You know, is very important for me. I know some people change their names, that's cool, but I just never been of that mindset. But I just think going forward for other people, it might be something to think about, right? Having a name that people can announce, easily. What else are you saying in the chat? Online account says a Jamaican with a gold teeth, dreadlocks, tracksuit is seen as more risky than a short Chinese in a tracksuit. Yeah, I mean, again, you've listed a few attributes that could make people perceive that Jamaican to be involved with crime. That guy from Kingston, Jamaica, with a gold tooth, dreadlock, with a sound system on his shoulder. Nah, that's a messed up stereotype. But unfortunately, those are the visuals, man. Who's been robbed by a Chinese guy in the UK? Press a 1 if you've been robbed by a Chinese guy in the UK. I mean, don't get it twisted, man. I grew up with a lot of Vietnamese, Chinese. Yeah, it's not what you think. But unfortunately, there are stereotypes at play. Salute to Panda. Let's see what you're saying. Denzel in the building says, my real name comes over quote unquote white. I remember I had to go to an interview and the look on their face was wild. Because as soon as they saw I never got the job, That's a shame. My CV probably didn't fit my look. That's a shame though. That's deep. And I guess it's not so much a microaggression, but I guess the whole job application process, having your ethnic name, quote unquote, on the application, if that actually affects your chances of getting the job. Like Denzel said, it doesn't matter, right? If you had had a nice Christian name, right? You turned up and they see you with, I don't know, 6'6" black guy with gold teeth. It's like you can't escape that if that is really happening, man. What do you guys think? Do you think that's a thing? Do you think that a black sounding name, quote unquote, on a job application will mark you down automatically? Let's see. TM says walking into a shop and them immediately saying hello and asking if you need help just because they think you will steal. Uh-oh. That's another one, man. That's another one. But again, you see, my mindset is like, okay, but what if that cashier person is just trying to be nice and give you good service and trying to make you feel at home, at ease? What if they support Black Lives Matter or something like that, and they understand a lot of people read about all of this type of stuff. Microaggressions. Big awareness came, I think, from the 2020 protests and stuff like that. So what if these people are just trying to be nice and trying to, make you content and trying to prove to you that they don't see you as a criminal, they see you as a human being. That's kind of what I'm trying to highlight, is that sometimes our own base mentality makes us see things in just one way. Which I think is not very conducive if it's leaning to one way, which is a negative way all the time. Big L says another one is a shopkeeper security guard following you around the store shop for no reason. It's funny because that is, something a lot of people state, but I don't experience that anymore. And I don't think I've experienced that to a great degree in the past. Perhaps it could be that, I don't know, let me think, are most of the guards these days black or black? And even then, if that happens, and like there might be instances where I catch the guard's eye looking at me, it's like, cool, the guy's just doing his job, you know? Cool, that's what he's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be looking out for any thieves. You know what I mean? It's yeah. CBC Boxing says the key is to stay focused. Absolutely. You know, and this is something that I attribute to the martial arts. And this is why I promote the martial arts. When I was a teenager, when I started Taekwondo, my I was, I hate to use the term, but a normie in the sense that I was going through what all teenagers go through, just kind of here and there. My body wasn't really in shape, but I'm naturally kind of in shape. I just wasn't complete as a person. Well, martial arts completed me, you know. And it's sad because I've been saying this for years, probably from the very beginning of this channel. Do the martial arts, sign up, give it a shot. You'll see exactly what I mean. If you value self-improvement, martial arts will be the source of that self-improvement in so many areas. But I see people just yeah, optimistic and positive and take that message, but never really go on to do it. It's sad. Ephraim Makov says some of these microaggressions are first world problems in which, if we get into them, there's no finalized solution. Online account says, I feel microaggressions towards black men is real because a lot of people walk with weird stigma stereotypes in their head. True. CBC Boxing says Chinese average height is 5'7". Isn't that the average height for all men in the world? TM says, do you think size affects the level of microaggressions as a black man faces, i.e., will you face more if you are 6'5" and big than if you are 5'8" and slim? I wouldn't know, to be honest. At 6'2", I think I might be perceived as a threat more than someone who's 5'8". I'm muscular. It's just hard to tell, to be honest. A lot of Ephraim Macro says a lot of these are distractions. Hey, that's more or less my mindset, generally speaking. Imagine you wake up, it's Saturday tomorrow, right? A nice blue sky, the sun, the morning sun is piercing your window and you feel good. You put on some radio, I don't know, you go out and wash your vehicle, you're having a good day, you're upbeat, and you're walking, and then you walk down the street, you go into the shops, you want to get some Christmas presents early and stuff like that. And then because someone just crosses the road in front of you, now you start to feel a certain way in your head. Now you're starting to feel like, oh yeah, the racism and stuff. Oh, like I just really don't. I mean, obviously we're human beings and things are going to affect us, right? We're human beings and that's good. And we have portals like this channel where we can express these problems, right? But there also needs to be an ability to self-regulate and to, again, a book that I recommend, please read it, man. The Chimp Paradox. Again, read, and all the information is in the book. Chimp Paradox. Chimp Paradox was introduced to me when I was fighting properly, competition like every other month or something like that. And it's used by a lot of like professional fighters in Olympic academies to help people, athletes, deal with demons in their head, basically, like the thing in their head, right? And that's the chimp in your head that's telling you you can't do it, the chimp in your head that's making you nervous and anxious and making you fear and think of the worst case scenario, when in reality you've been training for a decade or whatever, and you are more than ready to attain this goal, whatever it is, as long as you put in the work, obviously. But it's a great book to deal with demons, inner demons. Highly recommend it. But again, I make recommendations, and I'm not sure if people care to even try them out. We got Big L in the building. Wait a second, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. Big L, I really appreciate that. He comes through with the €10, man. I really appreciate that support. First one in the building. He says, there are studies on hiring biases when it comes to candidates with ethnic minority names. Lots of people hide their actual names when applying for jobs. I heard that a lot of companies bin those CVs. And I can believe that. I can believe that. I believe there was a study done. I'm not sure how thorough that study was, but I can believe that, of course, there's going to be ignorant people. Sometimes, a lot of these, especially recruitment people, recruitment agencies, these are some of the most, obviously not all, but the ones I've known are some of the most ruthless, like they just don't care. If you don't fit a certain profile, yeah, your CV, your application is getting binned. And here's a tip. If you're applying for jobs, my tip is to apply directly to the company. Go onto Google Maps, whatever company you want, seek it out yourself, apply directly. Don't go through recruitment people because they will mess your thing up. Apply directly. The thing about applying directly is that if these companies are serious, major companies, they're more so inclined to value your skill set. If they want jobs done and you reach the profile, and these companies, probably another microaggression is the whole diversity hire thing, right? Oh, you're a diversity hire. Well, yeah, whether it's right or wrong, a lot of these companies are trying to quote unquote diversify their workforce too, right? So I would say apply directly. It's very rare, in my opinion, I could be wrong, that companies who are looking for specific roles, particularly if the skill set for that role is fairly rare, right? To just do something silly like that. Again, that's a very stupid thing to do as well. People that will, a person is an asset in terms of what the qualities they bring to the job, the skill, right? To just dash an application like that just shows you that that's probably a dumb company anyway. But Big L, I really appreciate that €10. Salute to you and salute to that. Denzel in the building says microaggressions are real, but I believe as men, especially black men, the more buff you look, or if you got a mix of height and muscle, the more insecurity you activate in others. They already see us as negative. Ooh. The more insecurity you activate in others, if you're tall and if you've got muscle. That's a strong point. Let's see what you guys are saying. Jerry Manning in the building says microaggressions are real, but F them PR axes. I hear that. I hear that. It's a family show. Even though it's 5 to 12 a.m., it's a family show. So, I'm not going to swear so candidly about family show. Yes, check out the Chimp Paradox, man. A very good read. And I'm being very hot on books, man, because I think a lot of us these days, I know this has just been a really just like a rantish stream, right? But it has to be one of those streams. But I think a lot of us these days, we just overvalue and over uh, absorb video and audio content, for learning purposes, which is some people subscribe to everyone, like everyone who might quote unquote drop game, subscribe to everyone in the hopes that they're gonna learn something, right? They're gonna be filled to the brim with so much information from all these different people, and they're just gonna be this super source of knowledge, right? And they're gonna have all the answers for all their problems. That's not how it works, man. A lot of this stuff is going through one ear and out the other, you know like that's not how it works. The good old fashioned reading words is how you accumulate knowledge. Audio can be good, but it's still not as good as reading, in my opinion. So I'm really going back to the being hot on books, promoting reading. I need to do more reading myself. I think it's a big problem as millennials, Gen Z. It's we just think audio, video, audio, that's good enough. It's not good enough. So much knowledge in books. Online account says true. And don't be misled and fooled by diversity and inclusivity. It's a scam. You need to expound on that, to be honest. Why is that a scam? It could be a microaggression where people in that company might be like assuming that, oh, you're just a diversity hire. You don't have the full skill set required for your job. You're the weak link. You know. No, don't worry, bro. You can write whatever you want in the chat. Don't worry. I'm just not gonna. I'm gonna bleep the words. CBC Boxing says you should do a book club. Funny enough, in the South of Farm City, there is a book club thread, but it's very barren. Well, let me not say that. It's not very barren, but you know, it's just not the topic that's on the top of a lot of people's mind these days, I guess. I'm gonna make a video soon. I'm gonna be. I kind of want to tone down the lives, and I want to go back to more vlog style videos. And I want to make a great video, in my humble opinion, on uh, AM routines, so morning routines and evening routines, because routines are just so important. When you think about it, going to school, starting at 9, coming home at 3:30, going to college, or we got maths, we got science at this time. Routine really set us up, right? And I think that once we left education, some people just didn't take to life eloquently without routine. So a lot of people drop off because there's no routine. People start to drift and just do anything, wake up at any time, and routines like routines are very important. I'm not trying to sound like a know-it-all, but I just realize it myself. Whenever I commit to routines, it's like my mind is just focused. You know, it sets up the day: morning routine, evening routine, morning routine, evening routine. You know, in my opinion, when life is applied in a very mechanical way, it just makes everything more seamless. You know, hashtag just be a machine, bro. Big L says reading books build vocabulary, makes you more intelligent and eloquent. Absolutely. You know, new words coming in. KB Jones says, funny enough, I've seen the opposite toward people with quote unquote African sounding names in their careers. They are generally from London, etc. So I guess things like a UK accent break down the assumptions. Hmm, that's true, man. I want to do. I don't know if it's going to be a live or a video, but the London demographic thing, man. That when they, we can see the London demographics in 2023 in a pie chart, and London is basically officially a multicultural society. You know, I say officially because it's like people use that multicultural things just so flimsily, like easily. But London really is that because all the ethnic minorities now seemingly outnumber white British people. And that's interesting. And apparently the immigration numbers were higher than once expected. You know, interesting stuff. Uh, online account says I say scam because it's a vague catchphrase. Often it's more about diversity in LGBTs, women of color who seek acceptance. Okay, I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from. No Limit says, yes, you're right. I have seen a lot of guys just drop off too. Yeah, without that routine. This is why I don't know how the army is in the UK. Um, I can't say I recommend being in the army, but I can see its value for younger men, right, who might be directionless, want to join the army, get into a routine. That's what just sets people up. Routine, routine, routine. You iron at this time. You bath at this time. You do this time, man. CBC Boxing says Nigerians are doing great things in the West. Are they? Where? I don't want to be a cynic, but it's just that I hear that. But what stat shows that? Um, so what other microaggressions? I think I've gone through what I can think of at the top of my head. Have we said I don't see you as black? I don't see you as black because you don't sound quote unquote black. You don't act quote unquote black. Um, you know, I don't see you as black. What is even being black? What is black? You know, shout out to Diego Ife, man. Get his book. Um, um, we did a stream on it a few streams ago. Is it ethnic escapism? Good read on this identity question. What is black? What does Diego also say as well? Like quote unquote, someone add that in the chat. What does Diego always say? Decentralized. What does he say? Like if you remember what he says. KB says, I think black men get face carded a lot as well. Face carded. What does face carded mean? My impression is if people like your individual facial features, you can have an easier time with it. I mainly see this with women though. Is that featureism? That's it. Decentralized blackness. Shout out to Diego, man. Decentralized blackness. He's starting to make a few videos as well. So go check out his channel, making a few videos here. KB says, to me, it's the non-black men that are the main problem with this. If the men are scared, the women are likely to be so too. Interestingly, it seems non-black women are less intimidated overall by us. I hear that. I guess the thing is that for me personally, I'm obviously not going to try to override other people's thoughts and feelings. But to me, it's hard to quantify that. You know, from outside of a few people, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just a bit detached, but it's like a lot of these people out there just don't matter. You know, I'm not trying to, that have that bravado effect, but I just find that the less concern I have with things that I can't control, the more content I am, if that makes sense. I don't know. Salute to kings and queens in the building. Salute to you, says Yo Falcon in chat. Salute. KB Jones says, where's the ego? Laughing. Probably in the clouds, you know. A lot of people in the clouds. I see you guys. I see you guys. But yeah, so this stream was a chilled out stream, just discussing this quote unquote microaggressions, because really I was seeing it pop up a lot in Google searches. And again, most of us understand most of what has been said. Most of us have experienced it. But again, my angle, generally speaking, is that sure, these things are happening, of course, but it's important to deal with these things in a way that will be conducive for positive mental health. You know, I just don't subscribe to the idea that the UK is this bad, racist place. I can't subscribe to that, because I've attained a lot of things from this country. You know, so yeah, that's just my stance, generally speaking. Like, how do you manage and deal with these situations in a way that is conducive to positive mental health without feeling like, oh, everyone's out to get me, oh, everyone is a racist, every other group of people hate black people? I can't quantify that. I really can't. But that's just me. Again, I'm going to cut this live short. It was a nice chilled one. I just wanted to be present, with my agreement with the Friday streams. But if anyone, actually, it's a bit late, man. I kind of want to get some shut eye. But what I do want to focus more on are the vlog style of videos. I think that's more something that I've always wanted to work on, right? Like a day in the life type of stuff, like more real stuff. I don't know. I just want to be I'm a bit more creative, Let's see, what else is in the chat? What have I missed? But yeah, let me just salute again to Big L for the chat. I really appreciate that. We got someone who came up. I was just about to go to bed, came up, but I appreciate that. That's good. Let me just ring the bell. Ring the bell.
Reinforcements have arrived. Reinforcements have arrived. Reinforcements have arrived.
Hey, if you don't want to, you feel free to turn off your camera if you don't want to come up with your camera. If you don't mind, that's cool. I can bring you up. It's up to you. Okay. So we got.
Hello, Malcolm Black. How you doing, mate? You right?
Hey, salute. I can't complain, man. How are you?
I'm alright. I'm in the pub. I'm in the pub right now. Having a few beers.
You're in a pub.
Yeah.
How many black people in that pub today?
Not many, but it's alright because where I live in North London, so I live quite multiracial, so I'm pretty lucky.
Right.
How you been, mate?
You're having a good time, yeah?
I'm a jolly good time, a jolly old good time.
What are you sipping on?
And well, earlier I had a coat and three bottles of Elton. Now I'm the Artois.
Yeah.
You know, the Artois. I have
Yeah,
it to
that's
drink.
what's up, man. That's what's up. Hey, man, what? Everyone should be in the pub, man. It's a Friday night. Been slaving
Say
all
again.
week. Everyone should be at the pub now, man. It's a Friday night. You know, having a good
Yeah,
night.
I love the pub. I love the pub. I love the pub because what it is, right? I think it's how it weird. I got one uncle in it, and back in 86, 87, I was like 4 or 5 years old. He took me to the pub when I was like maybe a young child, and it was for him to take the pub when I was young. I want to go to the pub now, so he let me pass away unfortunately back in July this year. And so he left me a nice little legacy to carry on for adulthood. So I saw your live stream. It's very interesting. You know what? I'm so thankful for in the UK, especially in London, because as a black people, we've got it really good in this country. And yes, I've been with microaggressions twice in my life, yeah. And it's not nice, but you know, you can't be negative. It happens, but you know what, yeah. Being from the UK, being from London, we got compared to other parts of the world, we got so good as black people. We got so great. You know what I mean? When you get into pro-black saying, "Oh, black guy's racist," that's bullshit. Yeah, it happens. But you can't go in that. Because every opportunity I've got when I to work, a white person got me a job. Yeah, every opportunity comes to college. I went to university after school, right? A white person get an opportunity. No black people get opportunity. That black don't know black people. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Falcon? So the white person always help me every time. Black failed. Yeah, like when black people see how they're successful, they hate on that. They want to kill you. It's a place of shit, right? When a white person, they want to hit them and they help you. You know what I mean, bro? You know what I mean, Falcon?
Can I ask you something? I'm assuming that the pub, majority of people in the pub are white people, right?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. But you know what?
Do you feel uncomfortable in the pub, or do you feel comfortable in the pub?
Comfortable. I'm very comfortable. Very comfortable. Love it. Love it.
Right. But yeah, man, it was just about microaggressions. Like, so you basically think that, you know, it happens, but
it happens. Yeah, of course it does. Say again.
You're basically saying that, you know, it happens, but it still doesn't mean that this country is crap.
No, it's not, because in there we've got as a black person, as a black British man, kind of descent, right? We've got so much freedom. We've got so much freedom in the country that other countries won't give us. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So I've got it so good. When you're black British person, black English person, you travel to that place like USA, Canada, and other parts of the world, you're buddies. Being black English, black British. You know what I mean? So I claim my British English nationality. I'm private British, private English. I don't care what pro-black say. Oh, you're not English, you're not white. Fuck off. I'm private English, private British. Yeah, I'm not doing my heritage. Obviously, I'm mixed of Chinese, Irish, and Guyanese. My dad's side of my mum people all black Guyanese. Right? You know what? I'm private British. I'm private born London. I'm private all those things. I'm private born in London, UK. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what I've called what I came from. Not denied for anyone. You know what I mean, bro? You know what I mean, Falcon? I mean,
let me ask you this then. Do you think black people are too sensitive then?
Very. Yes, they are. Let me tell you, the black people are the most offended people on the fucking planet. I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying there's little things, right? You know what I'm saying? You say something, oh, the guy, I was free. They get upset over the stupid thing. They can calm the fuck down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you, man. But
and the thing is, the fact is that
okay. What about this? What if someone says this? Okay, you're a Londoner, I'm a Londoner. We're talking with a London mindset, very diverse. But what about if someone comes from Newcastle or I don't know, Liverpool?
Say, I can't hear you. You're bumping. I can't hear you.
If they came from Newcastle, for example,
right,
and they're complaining about racism and microaggression.
My solution is move to somewhere where it's more racially diverse, isn't it? Like Birmingham, Liverpool, London, Bristol, even. Because I've been to Newcastle when we played against Newcastle. I'm an Arsenal fan. You can see my picture. We played against Newcastle back in 2015, back in March 28, April 2015, right? And I didn't see any black people. But I will say this, right? You got a good point there. If they're black from Newcastle, don't like Newcastle, they're from Newcastle, then move to somewhere for racially diverse, isn't it? Where they get more accepted. You know what I mean?
What would you say if someone called you a badger?
Say again?
What would you say if someone called you a badger for your views?
What's a badger?
A COON.
I don't give a fuck. I don't really care because I'm not a coon. I know I'm born in this country. I'm British born. We expect anything, but like, for example, I'm British born. God in China, right? I'm born in London. I was born in Africa or Caribbean, so I'm gonna start in London.
Right.
So how can I be a coon? These people,
Right.
these pro-blacks are fucking stupid. They are. They're
Okay,
fucking
bro.
stupid.
Okay, bro. Okay, man. Great convo, bro. I'm gonna put you on mute for a sec.
Yeah,
I'm
go
gonna
on.
let Kings and Queens speak, yeah. But I appreciate you,
Go on,
Queens.
Karen. That's all right.
Yeah, Queens in the building, man. He pulls no punches. But we also got Kings and Queens in the building, man. How you doing this evening?
Very well, man. Very well. I saw your topic, and I wanted to, I definitely wanted to cover. I just got waylaid somewhere else, but yeah, no, I'm
Sure.
good, man. How are you, Falcon?
I can't complain, man. Thank you. Just having a chilled live stream. Nothing fancy, just chilled out.
By the way, I saw you reviewing that camera. Right, and
Oh yeah,
I thought that's a brilliant camera.
yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely. I want to do more vlogs with it, man, because it's a great little pocket camera, so you can take it anywhere without like feeling like, oh, people are staring. Because when you go out there, people like to stare when you got a camera. Like, what is he playing at?
yeah, no, absolutely. But it's an all-in-one camera. That's what I loved about it. It's just the handle, it's the screen.
Your audio is a little bit staticky. I don't know if there's a wire loose or something.
Oh, sorry. Let me move into a different place.
Sure, no problem.
Is that any better? Hopefully that should be better.
Let's give it a shot. It should be all right. But what do you think about Quincy's point of view? Like, okay, there are microaggressions in the country, but that doesn't mean that the country is not good for Black people. Would you agree or disagree with that notion?
Yeah. Okay, let's put it like this, right? There's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of pluses to living in a stably organized economy where education and training is free to a certain age, where everybody pays taxes and is whether or not they're happy to do it or not, they do it. And there's you've got an NHS system here, which a lot of people say is the envy of the world. I don't know how true that is, but at least there is an NHS system whereby people, by and large, drive carefully and don't drive as they do in some countries. There's law and order to after a fashion. I know some people say that you've got to set people above the law, but there is generally law and order. And generally speaking, the police don't ask you for money when you're driving your car every 200 yards, right? So you've got all of that and more. You've got all of that and more, right? So those are all the benefits or the pluses, if you like, right? And and there's more. And I'm sure people can point to more, right? But I think we have to also, as honest as we are with those points, we have to be honest about the other statistics, right? Mm-hmm. I think we have to be honest about the statistics that point to the amount of Black people, right, that are mentally ill in this country. And have been for years upon, that have got schizophrenia, all kinds of depression, that have knocked themselves off, of which I know quite a few, far too many. I think it's weird how I can know so many mentally ill men. It doesn't make sense.
What would you say is the chief reason for that mental illness, in your opinion?
So there's research, right? I listened to a speaker. I can't remember what her name is now. Margaret Sutherland. That's it. Professor Margaret Sutherland. And what she pointed to. She's written a few books, right? And the books. Well, I'm going to try and be brief. The book she pointed out the correlation between trauma. Listen, trauma suffered during pregnancy, that women suffered during pregnancy, and the mental ill health of those toddlers and teenagers, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a direct link. So when you think about the trauma, that a lot of our parents, our mothers, suffered when they came to the UK. I'm talking about my parents' generation, who are now in their late 70s and early 80s. The trauma that those women suffered, and then the resulting sons and daughters that became mentally ill. Is
What
correlated.
trauma? What trauma are you saying that they originally suffered? Are you accounting that to racism, for example?
So when our parents, it's well documented, when our parents came to the UK in the 40s, late 40s, 50s and 60s, in London and, right across the UK, they experienced extreme trauma, and it wasn't limited to just Brixton, it was all over the place. Basically, just imagine going in 2023 to some country in Europe and seeing no blacks, no dogs and no Irish. Can you imagine, like, you go to Spain, you go to Ibiza, right? And you go to get a hotel, and all the hotels, they would say, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. You and I would make a YouTube video about it, right? That's what we would do, right? So that was how it was, and it was worse than that when our parents came to this country. And just imagine if you're pregnant, just imagine having children in that circumstance, right? It's enough to drive people completely crazy, to be quite honest with you. But it didn't drive them crazy. It drove our children. It drove those unborn babies. That's because if we're talking, because the first, as soon as I heard her give that talk, right, 7 years ago. Right, and the first thing, and in fact, I asked a question, not to her, but to an educational psychologist who gave a similar talk the following year, right? And I asked her, and she knew what I was getting at, and all she could say was, all of the stats are on the internet. That she wouldn't go any further in that one, right? Mm-hmm. So those are the conditions that our parents came into, and that they had children into, right? We have to really consider the ramifications of all of that, as well as that, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we want to talk about it or not. And talking about trauma, right, is something that a lot of us, for some reason, don't necessarily want to talk about. When you look at all of the
in what way, when you say that, how would you say that we don't want to talk about trauma? And what do we not talk about, in your opinion?
Okay, so it's traumatic, right? Honestly, to begin to have an honest conversation about going to a estate agent after estate agent after estate agent, seeing that it's available, the room's available, or the flat is available for rent on Rightmove. But when you ring up Foxtons, when you go down there to sign the papers, suddenly it's gone. Right? That was in the newspaper.
I hear that. I hear what you're saying. But in my opinion, as someone who was, I'm a millennial, right? I'm someone that came up in the late 80s. I've never experienced that. But I don't know if I say that I've never experienced that means that I'm pretending, or I'm lying about an experience that you might have felt, for example.
No, I've never experienced that because I've always owned my own properties, right? But that's a recent, newspaper column, and it's in a few newspapers. Was written in the last 10 years, right? I wish I used to keep newspaper clippings. I don't do it anymore because I've got a box full of them, right? But that's from the last 10 years, and in fact, they made TV programs about it. I'm sure you can find it probably on the YouTube channel. Do you get what I mean? So that's in the last 10 years. Like if Foxtons see a foreign surname, a black foreign surname, then the flat's gone, right? And newspapers have done studies on that with these estate agents. Recently, right? And then so when we talk about the type of care that our black women get in hospitals, that they would literally be put forward for certain types of operations more so than white women. Again, those are statistics, right? When we look at the whole sectioning of black people, that they would be more medicated than non-black people in the UK. These are all stats. When we look at the stop and search, these are all literal figures. So you see what it is when you put all of that together, because remember, we're talking, these are individual episodes, if you like. But when you put all of that together, when you put it all together, and when you consider that is in your country, and effectively that's the environment that you're navigating, not just you, but your children and members of your family, all of you that are navigating that as an environment, right? Then it then becomes quite significant.
Mm-hmm.
And these figures, you see,
are you saying that racism and discrimination is the only source or trigger for mental ailments?
put it this way, right? Put it this way. No, I'm not for a start, right? And obviously, there's evidence to say that mental ill health can be hereditary. Mental ill health comes from lots of different directions. But if we're talking about, obviously, it can come from smoking drugs. People don't want to talk about that, but if young minds smoke, if you're under 20 and you're going to smoke weed, the child or take ecstasy or acid or something like that, it's going to affect your mental health, right? I've seen it as well. I've literally seen it, right? So but if we're going to talk about environmental factors, which is really what I'm talking about. If you're talking about environmental factors, it's a little bit disempowering, I believe, right, for black people to have an honest conversation about that, right? And I don't actually think a lot of people want to talk about environmental factors as a causal factor in its entirety.
No, but I understand what you're saying, but I think, for example, on this channel at least, we are quite open about certain topics when it comes to mental health and racism, right? But I think there might also be a difference because some younger guys, for example, might not really fully how can I say, they might not have experienced the things that you've experienced. So it's not that they don't want to talk about it, but it's just like they just really don't experience some of that,
And don't get me wrong. I look, everybody's experience in the UK is totally different. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So you've got, everybody's got their own personal anecdotal story, and that's to be respected. Somebody's individual account of their life is exactly that, and that's to be respected. Obviously, do you know what I mean?
I'm saying that I don't really think people are not open enough to discuss these things, especially around here, because people can come on, without a camera, without a picture, and speak to their heart's content.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really more talking about, when I talk to people, out there. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
It's a funny thing, and I understand it because quite obviously, if it's not an individual's experience, then it's very hard to relate to any of this. It's literally that simple. And when you do present facts and figures, numbers, right? Even the government's own numbers, right? When you present this, it's unless somebody understands research, then it's even difficult to relate to that, basically. But policy is driven.
Sorry to cut you. For example, stop and search, right? Stop and search. If we can agree that amongst the so-called black community, crime is high, stop and search is something that, unfortunately, I might see it as some sort of a solution or elixir to that problem, because you are preventing or creating a barrier for young black kids for carrying big machetes or potentially guns, right? Let's pick up a country like Nigeria, for example, high on corruption, where police can stop you and they will extort you. They can basically steal from you, proper corruption. I would say that is more, in my opinion, that situation will be more traumatic mentally, or at least equally the same, right? And it's just hard to determine. We can use the stats, but I think in this world there is an equivalent when it comes to certain things that can have a negative effect or a negative impact on mental health.
Well, yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it? There's a website called the Mind website, right? Very interesting website. They get government funding, as far as I can understand it, right? So, like any other charity, right? Interesting, because on one of their pages, I'm paraphrasing now, which is always dangerous, but they basically say, right, from statistics, they basically say that instances of poor mental ill health in black countries, right, for black people in black countries, is the same as it is for white people in white countries. Right?
How do they determine that? Because I've read that myself, but how would they determine that? Especially when we see all these immigrants that are willing to risk their literal life to leave their country to be in this cold, so-called racist country. It's very hard to determine that. And this is, I don't know. When I read that, I don't
It's
know.
interesting, though, isn't it? Don't you think it's an interesting statistic? You know, they might have made it up, but something tells me they didn't. They might have made it up, but something tells me they didn't. And the funny thing is, right? I was talking to a Jamaican woman today, right? She's a midwife. She's been here for a year, and I asked her a question. I said, today, does the average person in Jamaica think that? How did I put it to her? Does the average person in Jamaica think that life in England is? I didn't use these words, but I said, you know, that England is England's streets are paved with gold, and she basically said yes. Right. So you know, I think that's the reason why a lot and but she right now today, she said that when she came here, the hospital promised her promised her accommodation, that they were going to look for accommodation for her, this, that, and the other, you know. But she said that at work they're getting her to do, they're getting her to look after more patients, they're getting her to do the dodgiest shifts, This is what she's telling me. Right, and so I said to her, and so she's looking. She doesn't know if she wants to stay. She wants to go back home, right? And so this is what
I think from my, you know, I could have a bias or be ignorant, but I think there's a scale to these things, right? I mean, in this country, people have relative safety when compared to some of these countries back, quote unquote, home, right? People have a currency that works, you know, that is doing well across the globe, potentially have opportunities to study and get a world-renowned qualification, to work in world-leading organizations, health. You know, you mentioned the NHS, access to healthcare that they might not have back home. You know, so it's, I think, of course, racism always is a thing, and no one will deny racism. But unfortunately, at the same time, the rate of immigration to this country is high for a reason, right? And that's typically because back home the situation is just not good enough. You know, I don't understand why people, in my opinion, someone who's born in Britain who understands racism, who is in the winter here and it does, you know, can't deal with the cold. I don't understand why someone from tropical Africa would come here on a dinghy across the Mediterranean, but they're doing it, you know, and there must be a strong reason for that.
I agree with you. What she said to me is that in Jamaica, her words were, the government doesn't value young professionals. That's what she said. And it is true that on the African continent, as well as the Caribbean, there's something called a brain drain, to the point where various governments in the Caribbean and on the African continent are now only just now beginning to understand that they need to attract, that they need to somehow keep the university students, you know, the young professionals in the country. You know,
a lot of the leaders of these countries send their kids to the European and American countries to get education. You know, a lot of these prime ministers and presidents, for their health, they're coming to England or they're going to America. The example there is basically suggesting that, yeah, the country is messed up. If your head of state is doing this, he's leading by example. If your head of state is not valuing the young people, and you know, in Africa, the young people are now going to be the majority, like.
Malcolm, mate. Malcolm, I'll get off, yeah. I'll get off the live stream, yeah. But I'll catch you soon, yeah. I'll join another live stream soon, yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, no problem, man. Good to have you up. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you, mate. You too. Bye.
Yeah, peace.
Peace, bro. That is definitely an issue, and you know, without going too off topic, this is why I'm so glad that our young brother in Burkina Faso, where 50% of my DNA comes from, I'm so glad he's taken over. Hopefully, he's going to stick to his word, but I don't want to go off track. But no, you know, the point that you make is completely correct. Coming back to microaggressions, you see, what it is, and going back to what you said about young people, right? A lot of young people under a certain age, right, don't understand when they're being aggressed against. It's as simple as that. A lot of them can't. You may feel something's not quite right, but to be able to articulate what it is not as easy for young people as it is for slightly older people. You know, a lot of young, the term microaggression is actually relatively quite a new term. you know, most of us, well, not most of us, but a lot of us understand what outright racism is. You know, name calling or this, that, and the other, or treatment, being beaten up by a bunch of skin. You know, we understand macroaggressions, but when we talk about microaggressions, that's a lot harder for. You know, that's a lot harder to spot because because the perpetrator has to be quite clever in how they deliver it, right? and generally speaking, it's almost like, I tell you what a microaggression is to explain it, right? So it's almost like you're walking past, and not that any of us would do this, but you're walking past a fit woman, you slap her on the bum at carnival, and by the time she's turned around, you're 100 meters down the road, you know, down the road, right? And you know, that's probably a poor example, but that's similar to what a microaggression is. By the time the perpetrator's done it, right, it could be the next day, the next week, it could be the next year, and you think, right, so that's what that guy was getting at. Oh man, and I didn't pick it up. But when a lot of people, not a lot, but when a few people, or a lot of people are doing that consistently, right, it can wear you down. Basically, that's what it does. And to be able to
earlier on in the stream, because I know you came in late, we basically were listing like loosely some instances of microaggression. For example, oh, you're very articulate for a black person, or where are you really from, or I don't see color, I treat everyone the same, you know. So we went through a few of them, but I think my angle was that yes, microaggressions are a thing. How do we deal with them? Like you mentioned identifying them, and that's, you know, obviously the first instance, but then how do we deal with them? And I think in line with talking about mental health, you know, protecting our mental health, my position is that there's always going to be pricks. There's always going to be people trying to test you, black or white, Asian, whatever. There's always going to be a person who is willing, who is just there in this world to bring you down. You know, so my thing is doing the action, whatever that is, that protects mental health, right? Being aware of the microaggression, but also having a greater understanding of the person that might stoop to that level. You know, for example, we're talking about, okay, you're walking down the street and non-black people see you and then they decide to cross the road. Can we not say that in some cases it's not always going to be because that person's black? But of course, for us being black, we are prone to suggest that, oh, that was a microaggression and it was simply done because we were black. But what if that person just had to cross the road? Or what if, in the worst case scenario, they perceived that person as a threat and they were just, you know, making an evasive maneuver? I think in some cases, there's just so many variables in these microaggressions. And I think there's just so many angles when it comes to microaggressions, and I just want people, especially younger people, to just do the action that will protect the mental health. You know.
I definitely agree with you with all of what you just said. Here's another thing: you've got some black boys and some black girls that basically I personally would cross the road from. Right.
That's what I said. That's what I said before. Right.
Yeah. I mean, no joke. Right. You see, they're not dressed right. I don't trust the way they're dressed. They got their pants hanging down. I'm not one. You know, if I'm walking up to them, I'm watching them. You know, I've got my eye on them. Holy for black boys making noise on the tube. Nah, I'm not going into that. I'm going into the next one. No. I'm protecting myself first. Right, it's as simple as that. A whole heap of loud black girls talking complete crap on the bus. I'm not sitting up there. I'm not sitting around there now. I'm sitting downstairs. Right, so I'm not getting paid to go and deal with them. That's the conductor's job, right, or the bus driver's job, right? So, but all of that said, right, the way I've seen, and you see, the reason why I start off there is because young black kids, young black guys, young black women, you have to, people treat you to a great extent the way you present yourself, right? That's the deal. That's it, right? That said, right, the way that's not going to stop people perpetrating microaggressions against you. The way that I've seen Asians deal with it, right, is that there is safety in numbers. I've seen them do it. I've seen them do it in various places and spaces, right? In other words, right, someone comes into they basically, the way they move is brilliant. I think I admire it. They act to control spaces. It could be a workspace. They act to control it. It could be the government. It could be Sadiq Khan's as Lord Mayor bringing his own people in. They make alliances with their own people. They bring their own people in, and they aim to control whatever area they're in. Right? It's as simple as that. Right? That's the way that and it seems that a lot of various successful groups act in that way. Right? If, in my opinion, if black people acted in that way and went out of their way to do business together, to do all of those things together, it wouldn't matter. The microaggressions simply wouldn't. They're never going to stop anyway. But it would. The point is, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't. At the moment, it seems to me over the last few years, we're drifting more and more apart, and we're trying to work out ways in how we can successfully act as lone wolves. Right. And that's always a problem when you're on your own and you're isolated, right? You got to be a strong man or woman to deal with life, to deal with all these things on your own. I'm not saying you can't do it, but you've got to be strong. And I think that's leave yourself a target. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I see.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with the lone wolf situation. But as a final kind of talking point, you recently, I remember you've been suggesting that because of mental health and other factors as well, Black British people, quote unquote, should desire to emigrate, right? Leave the UK and hopefully have find a better habitat, right? But if you're saying that the British Asians, quote unquote, are protecting their image to some degree, especially in defense from microaggressions, isn't that suggesting that a stronger British presence is required for that?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm suggesting that is suggesting it as a definite option, basically, is because I've seen the erosion of the Black British community in the UK. I've literally watched it disintegrate. Right, I mean, to the point where you really. I know it's hard for people to understand this, possibly, but the Black British community in the UK is really, really quite strong. it was similar to what the Asian community is today, right? It was quite not as moneyed, right? Not as moneyed. Right? I mean, we've got more money now as individual Black people than we had sort of 40, 50 years ago, but we had the community, right? And there was safety in number. There was safety in the areas where we lived, right? I've seen that disintegrate. It's been a slow decline, right? It's been one-way traffic. I personally doubt that community can be reclaimed. It pains me to say that, right? But I came to that realization about 8 months ago, right? I came to the realization about 8 months ago because people have got to want that. Women, I'm not going to go there, don't worry. But women have got to want that. They've got to want that community. They've got to want it, and I don't think they do. But elsewhere on planet Earth, elsewhere in other Black countries, whether it's the Caribbean, South America, or the African continent, right? There's still some sort of semblance of that, at least more so than the UK, from what I can see. If somehow individuals here, I'll use that term, individuals here, right? Could Black individuals here could say, you know what, let's do something about let's rebuild our communities in the UK in a real sense, and not be Sunday friends, right? Not just have a Sunday community at church, right, or the mosque or wherever we Black people congregate these days, right, or Sunday or a Friday night community down there at Satay Bar in Brixton, right? But I mean, real community, right? If we could have that again, make a real commitment to that and do it, right, and do the things that cause community, which are the same in the Asian communities and the Jews and everywhere else. If we could do that, then maybe. But I wouldn't hold my breath. Sadly, I don't like it.
Were we ever a community though? I mean, were Nigerians, for example, and Jamaicans ever together like that back in the day?
Put it this way, right? One of the from as a child, right? One of the men that rented the room in my granddad's house was a Nigerian guy, he was there for years, right? So my best friend at school was a guy called Shola Ladameji, right? He's married to a white woman now. They've got 2 kids, but that's not the point, right? Lives in a really nice house. He's a banker. Lives in a really nice house in Elsfield, right? But that's not the point. The point is, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes again and yes again. I don't know what it's like for actually, I do know what it's like for the younger guys. Right? Personally, and again, it's anecdotal. It's just my experience. But my experience growing up in the UK is Caribbeans. Yeah, we cussed each other. You know, yeah, you lot little slave children. You lot, Yeah. My mate Charlie used to say, we sold you, right? But you got to understand, I used to cuss him. You got to understand, back in the day, 40 years ago, you would spend a whole science lesson at school cussing each other, right? And then you go and play football. Right? And then you go to your maths lesson and just run each other and cuss each other for the whole lesson. It's just what we used to do. And if you got the teacher to laugh, then you won. The teacher would have to laugh. If the teacher laughed at your cusses in class when you're cussing, this Nigerian boy, or if he's cussing you, a Jamaican, or this Trini boy, you just cuss him, or the Asian boy.
Even in those innocent cusses, if people are cussing people because of their differences, then surely that means that there is no communal spirit or identity, right? Because I can't imagine, for example, a white Welsh person, a white English person, white Scottish people. I don't really see. I might not be inside of their communities, but I don't really see deep digs into their culture like that. It could be some Scottish guy, oh, you English, yeah, or Irish guy, you English, yeah. But it's not as deep as it has been between, for example, African and Caribbean people in the past, at least from my point of view.
I'm not too into white communities, but the jokes on the white comedy circuit historically has always been there was an Englishman, a Scottishman, and an Irishman, right? And so those jokes run deep with white British people. They run deep, and those jokes run right back to when the Irish, the Scottish were fighting for their independence from the English crown. That's where those jokes go to. That is where they go to. We have to be really clear about that. Those jokes go right back to the historical, and they've come right the way forward. So yeah, do you get what I mean? So I wouldn't underestimate any of that. But coming back to, it was what we used to do in a boys' school in South West London. We used to just cuss each other. But guess what? A lot of those guys now, I know them to this day, literally to this day, right? Most of my school friends, right? Most of the guys I grew up with, right? From Nigeria, Ghana, from various Caribbean islands and all the rest of it. Right now to this day, we're still in touch. That's 45 years. You know what I mean? Sometimes, right, from what I can see, this I don't know what you call it, this animosity, this thing is in my anecdotal experience amongst the islands and West Africa and all the rest of it, it's overplayed. Because basically a lot of us are intermarried as well. It's the truth. But yeah, good topic though. That thing about microaggressions is and you said something, and I do agree with you. I'm paraphrasing you. What is the best way of dealing with it in the moment, at the time? Analyzing, how it's making you feel. If you understand it's a microaggression, do you let it beat you down? Do you let it disempower you? All of those things as well. Is it real or imagined? These are the things.
So exactly that is the awareness that I really want people to have when we deal with a topic like this. But at the same time, like I've said earlier, people deal with these issues in their own way. It's not for me to suggest, oh, you have to deal with it this way, you have to do this. No, that's not how it is, right? But it's just more or less food for thought, right? It's just a strategy to deal with these issues,
Yeah. Can I say, I did a stream, was it last night, and sadly the stream went off, right? I was playing the videos, right? But it's the first time that's happened to me, but so you know, I came across that famous watch. I thought she's famous, Nella or Nelly Rose, and the French guy said something to her. I'm old enough to be your father, right? Now, apparently there was, and remember that, you know, these TV programs, they cut things up, and apparently there was a backstory leading up to that point where she said, I'm not happy with your comment, you know, you're trying to little girl me, da 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 da, and, you know, so it brings us back to what you said, you know, how do we deal with it? Is it real or imagined? And all of those things. Because, you know, on the surface, and the way that he came back with it was, you know, well, you know, I'm 51 and you're 26, right? I am literally old enough to be your father, right? Sorry, I know your father's passed away. I'm not trying to dig at you I would never dig at you for your father passing away. So the question is, was she simply just triggered, because obviously he's her dad, you know, and he's not her dad? Was she just triggered, or was it a microaggression? Do you know what I mean? And
was she implying that was a racial microaggression? That was I can't. So
go ahead.
I'm just trying to think about that situation. So the guy basically said, "I'm old enough to be your dad."
Yeah,
and
he said. You know, he said, "I'm old enough to be your dad." You know, and he said it he said it right in the same sort of way that some women would say, "I'm old enough to be your mum." You know, that kind of. But women would generally say it in a more forceful manner. You know, a middle-aged woman is more likely to go, "I'm old enough to be your mum," like that to a little boy. You know, that's the, you know, "I'm old enough to be your mum. You can't come and chat me up. I'm old enough to be your mum." Or yeah, "I do tell you what to do. You get your feet off that bus seat. I'm old enough to be your mum. You do as you're told." You know, that kind of thing. I don't. The way that he said it didn't sound like that. I think he was just more saying as a point of fact, "I'm old enough to be your dad. I'm old enough to be your father.
Right.
I'm 1 years old. Right? And you're 20. You're half my age."
Right, but like you said, sometimes, you know, again, it's not me trying to dictate how people should feel, but sometimes, you know, people might just be imagining things, and this is a slippery slope, because again, you're gonna have to deal, you know, with the dominant society in one way or form, right? So if in your mind you're just preempting and just expecting some sort of racialized discussion or communication, this is what, in my opinion, this is what triggers poor mental health, because it's like you're in a constant state of panic, fear, disorientation, just thinking in a mentality that is of self-defense all the time, just worried, you know, around people that you probably have to speak with in some capacity.
Yep, absolutely. And the funny thing about what you just said there, that professor that I told you about, and that educational psychologist, child psychologist, both of them spoke about life living in that heightened state, right? As a state that basically leads to poor mental health and anxiety. Are you with me? Right. So living consistently in that state causes mental ill health and anxiety as well. It causes, it's that whole, you know, that fight or flight. People live in one state or the other, basically. You know, and it's a terrible place to exist. You know, and the question then becomes, for us living, right? Are a lot of us living, unwittingly, or because of the situation that because of the place and space that we find ourselves in, are a lot of us living in how many of us are living in that place? Does that make sense? You know, how many of us? Do you get what I mean? And again, you spoke about if we are living in that space, then what can we do to help ourselves? You know, because basically it is a place of mental ill health. It becomes that. It's wearing, taxing on your brain. That's what it is.
Right. Well put,
But
well
anyway,
said. But you know how it is, man. We're in that mark of 2 hours where I just
yeah,
start to phase out reality, and I don't know what's happening anymore. And I'm just, I can't do this anymore. But kings and queens, man, I really appreciate you coming up. You always come up with wisdom. It's always a pleasure to hear you speak. But feel free to, at any point in time, when you're in the chat, just put a link to your channel. I don't mind at all. Guys, go and check out Kings and Queens channel. Man, does a lot of great live streams that are very interesting. You should check it out. But Kings and Queens, I hope you have a good weekend. Any plans that we need to know, or is it secret?
no, I'm going to be streaming hopefully tomorrow. Stream tomorrow. It's just going to be. I'm going to be bringing back a brother that I had before. He's living in Ghana, so going back to what we were talking about before. But hopefully we're going to be talking about property, basically. Well, places to live in Ghana. We're going to be talking about that and other bits and pieces as well. Yeah, well, that's the one for tomorrow. That's the one I've got planned for tomorrow anyway.
Awesome, guys, man. Go subscribe to Kings and Queens. Check out this live stream for tomorrow. Kings and Queens, man. It's a pleasure as always. Hope you have a good night.
Yeah, you too, bro. God bless you, man.
Right,
Take care.
Appreciate it. Peace. Someone came up late, but I'm afraid it's too late to come up. But I appreciate you back. Feel free to come up next Friday when I do my live streams. But with that being said, guys, I hope you found this live stream to be useful. Microaggressions, how do you feel about it? Feel free to write down below in the comment section. Salute to Big L for being the sponsor of tonight's show. You're going to be pinned in my first message, just to show support. I really appreciate everyone who came through. Again, this was a nice, relaxed live stream. Sometimes I don't want to do all the reading and stuff like that, but it's good to just speak on a level, just frankly, just let speak our minds. I appreciate that online account. And I appreciate Quincy82 and Kings and Queens for coming up. And always good to have, hear the British accent and hear British people talking about this situation. And anyone else, man, feel free to come up anytime you want to, when I do a stream to discuss this issue, right? These issues, very important. But hey, with that being said, I hope everyone has a good weekend. And I hope to see you soon with more content coming soon. So look out for that. But with that being said, peace.